Welcome to our deep dive all about data strategy for the AI era. You're in the right place if you want to really get a handle on this whole data strategy thing in the age of AI.
It's such a fascinating and fast-moving landscape, isn't it?
Absolutely. And we've got some great resources to help us unpack it all.
We do. We'll be looking at excerpts from Moma Marlone's book, AI-Driven Data Strategy.
And some really interesting research snippets and even a few visuals.
By the end of this deep dive,
You'll be ready to tackle data strategy head on.
you'll have the tools and knowledge to navigate this complex world.
So let's jump right in. One thing that struck me as we were going through all this material,
What's that?
it's how data strategy has evolved so much over time.
It really has. It's like a journey through the history of computing.
Totally. From those massive mainframe computers
Oh yeah, those things were huge.
to today's world of AI and machine learning.
It's incredible to think about how far we've come.
It is. And what's fascinating is that even though technology has changed so dramatically,
Those core principles of data management, the ones established way back in the mainframe era,
they're still relevant today.
they are. It's like the foundation of a house.
Oh, I like that analogy.
You might build new floors and add modern features.
But that solid base is essential.
Exactly. Think about data security, for instance.
Okay, yeah.
That focus on protecting sensitive information.
It was so crucial in the mainframe era,
And it's even more critical today.
especially with AI and the sheer amount of data being processed.
It's a whole new level of responsibility,
Right. Then, of course, we had the client-server revolution
which brought us distributed computing.
and relational databases.
This made data more accessible.
And flexible, too.
Absolutely.
Then, with the internet boom, data went global
That's right, fueling the emergence of e-business models.
and setting the stage for the big data era.
The internet really did change everything.
I can't even imagine a time before the internet now.
I know, right? But that explosion of connectivity,
It was a game changer for data.
it was. Suddenly we had these massive volumes of data pouring in from everywhere.
And traditional data management methods just couldn't keep up.
Nope. We needed new technologies like Hadoop and NoSQL databases,
And then cloud computing emerged.
offering even more power and flexibility.
It's amazing how each era built upon the last.
It is, leading us right to the AI revolution we're experiencing today.
But one thing that really stood out to me in Lone's book,
I'm curious, what was that?
it's his emphasis on data as a strategic asset.
Oh, yes. It's not just about managing data efficiently
Right. It's about understanding how data can drive value.
and create a competitive advantage.
Lone really makes a compelling case for that.
He does. He breaks down the concept of data value into three components.
Oh, interesting. Tell me more about that.
So there's direct value, indirect value, and strategic value.
Okay, I'm listening.
Direct value is the most obvious one.
Like generating revenue or reducing costs?
Exactly.
That makes sense.
But it's the indirect and strategic value that are truly transformative.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. What's indirect value all about?
Well, think of it this way. It's about using data to make better decisions.
So improving operational efficiency.
You got it.
Okay, that makes sense. And what about strategic value?
Well, strategic value takes it a step further. It's about using data to create entirely new products, for example,
Wow.
or personalize customer experiences.
So like anticipating what customers want before they even know they want it.
Precisely, and even predicting future market trends.
Data can do all that. That's incredible.
It is pretty amazing. And Lone provides some really practical guidance in his book, too.
Oh, that's great.
Like how to manage data assets across their entire life cycle.
From creation to archival.
Exactly. He also recognizes that there's no one-size-fits-all approach to data strategy.
Right. Different industries have different needs and challenges.
Exactly. That's why he provides these tailored roadmaps for various sectors.
That's really helpful. I think that's where Lone's framework for AI-driven data strategy comes in, right?
You got it. It's brilliant, actually. He lays out these 4 key pillars for successful AI integration.
I'm curious to unpack those pillars a bit. They seem to go beyond just the technical aspects of data management.
You're absolutely right. His framework addresses both the technical and the organizational challenges of integrating AI into a data strategy.
So it's a holistic approach.
It is. It recognizes that technology alone isn't enough.
So what are these 4 pillars that Lone identifies?
All right, the first one is AI governance integration.
AI governance integration.
Yes, it's about incorporating ethical considerations and compliance into the core of your data strategy.
That makes sense. You don't want to build an AI system on shaky ethical ground.
Exactly. You need a solid foundation from the very beginning.
Okay, what's the next pillar?
The second pillar is cultural transformation.
The human element.
Precisely. Loan acknowledges that even with the best technology and the brightest minds, you won't get far if your organizational culture isn't ready to embrace AI and data-driven decision-making.
It's like trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
It is. You need the right mindset, the right culture to truly leverage the power of AI and data.
Okay, I'm with you. What about the third pillar?
The third pillar is what Loan calls industry-specific roadmaps.
Because different industries face unique challenges.
Exactly. What works for a financial institution might not work for a healthcare provider.
Or a manufacturing company.
Right. So Loan provides this tailored guidance for specific sectors.
That's incredibly practical and helpful.
It is.
And what's the final pillar?
The fourth and final pillar is the innovation governance balance.
Innovation governance balance.
It's about finding that sweet spot between fostering innovation and ensuring responsible data practices.
So you don't want to stifle innovation, but you also don't want to throw caution to the wind.
Precisely. It's about striking that balance.
Okay, I see how these four pillars could be incredibly valuable for organizations trying to figure out this whole AI and data strategy thing.
They are. It's a great starting point for understanding the key considerations and challenges.
And I think it's pretty amazing how Loan's framework, which he published a few years ago, is still so relevant today.
It is. He was ahead of his time, that's for sure.
It's like he had a crystal ball. All right, we've covered the historical evolution of data strategy.
And we've gotten a taste of Loan's framework for AI-driven data strategy.
And we've talked about data as a strategic asset.
It's a lot to process, I know.
It is, but it's fascinating stuff. I'm ready to dive deeper into the modern data landscape, though.
Me too. It's a dynamic and exciting world out there.
There are so many cool things happening with cloud computing, edge analytics, sustainable computing, federated learning. It's almost overwhelming.
It is, but in a good way, I think.
I agree. So let's take a breath here and come back for part 2, where we'll explore all those cutting-edge trends in the modern data landscape.
Sounds good to me. I'm ready when you are.
All right, let's dive into this modern data landscape. You mentioned some pretty futuristic-sounding trends before the break. Cloud computing, edge analytics, sustainable computing.
Yep.
I'm all ears.
Well, they're really changing the game when it comes to data strategy, that's for sure. Let's start with cloud computing. It's totally revolutionized how organizations store, process, and access data.
In what way?
Well, think of it like having this massive, superpowered data center right at your fingertips.
Wow.
And you don't have to deal with managing all that infrastructure yourself.
So it gives organizations more flexibility.
Tons. And scalability, too. They can quickly adapt to changing data needs.
And handle those huge volumes of data we talked about earlier.
Exactly. Plus, it's often more cost-effective than those traditional on-premises data centers.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, now what about edge analytics? I've heard the term, but I'm not really sure what it means in the context of data strategy.
So in the past, data would usually be sent from its source to a central data center for processing,
Okay.
like from a sensor on a factory floor or a customer's phone.
Right.
But with edge analytics, the processing happens right there at the edge, close to where the data is being generated.
So instead of sending all that data back and forth,
Yeah.
you're analyzing it in real time.
You got it.
That's pretty cool.
It is. And it's crucial for applications that need really low latency,
Like what?
like self-driving cars
Oh, wow. Yeah.
or industrial automation systems, anything where you need instant insights.
Makes sense.
It's also super relevant for the Internet of Things.
Oh, yeah, with all those devices constantly generating data.
Exactly.
So it's like having a mini data center in every device.
You could say that, making decisions on the fly.
Yeah, that's mind-blowing. All right, what about sustainable computing? Is that just about reducing the environmental impact of all this data processing?
It's a big part of it, for sure. You see, as data centers get larger and AI models become more complex, they use a lot of energy, and that has a real impact on the environment. So sustainable computing aims to create more energy-efficient hardware and algorithms.
So it's like designing a data center that runs on sunshine and good vibes.
Something like that. But seriously, it's an important initiative.
Yeah, we can't ignore the environmental cost of all this data processing.
We can't. And a lot of organizations are realizing that sustainable computing can actually be good for their bottom line, too.
How so?
Well, less energy consumption means lower operating costs.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. So it's a win-win.
It is.
Okay, so we've got cloud computing, edge analytics, and sustainable computing. Are there any other big trends we should be aware of?
There's one more I wanted to mention. Federated learning.
Federated learning. Okay, tell me about that.
So remember how we were talking about data privacy being a major concern?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Especially in fields like healthcare.
Right. Well, federated learning could offer a solution. It lets you train AI models on data that's spread out across multiple locations.
Without actually having to move the data. So instead of gathering all the data in one place, which could be risky from a privacy standpoint, you're training the AI model on data that stays put.
You got it.
That's really clever.
It is. And it's a game changer for industries like healthcare, where patient data is so sensitive.
It could be huge for any industry where data privacy is a top priority.
Exactly.
It's like a team of AI detectives working on a case, but each one keeps their own clues secret and just shares their findings.
Haha. I love that analogy. That's a great way to explain it.
So the AI model gets smarter without compromising anyone's privacy.
Exactly. It's pretty remarkable.
All this is fascinating, but I have to admit, it's a lot to take in. I mean, how do organizations even begin to implement these technologies and adapt to this rapidly changing landscape? It's like drinking from a fire hose of data.
I hear you. It can be overwhelming. But luckily, there are some great resources and frameworks available to help organizations navigate this. Remember those critical success factors from McKinsey we talked about earlier?
The four cornerstones of a solid data foundation.
Yes. Strong leadership, robust architecture, advanced skills, and a data-driven culture.
Right, those are important.
And they're all interconnected. You can't just focus on one or two and expect to succeed.
So it's about a holistic approach to data strategy.
Exactly.
Okay, but where do organizations even start with implementation?
Well, MIT CISR has some really helpful and detailed guidelines.
Okay.
They break it down into four key areas: strategic alignment, risk management, quality assurance, and value realization.
All right, let's unpack those a bit.
Sure. So first up, strategic alignment. That means making sure your data strategy actually aligns with your business goals.
It's like you don't want to build a data-driven spaceship if you're running a bicycle shop.
Exactly. You need a clear roadmap that outlines how data and AI will support your objectives.
So it's like a business plan, but for data.
You could say that. And just like with any good business plan, you have to think about risk management.
What could go wrong?
Exactly. And how can you minimize those risks?
Especially with AI.
Especially with AI, where you've got model risk and ethical considerations to worry about.
We need to make sure those AI systems are playing by the rules.
Absolutely. We don't want any rogue AIs running around.
Definitely not. Okay, what's next?
Quality assurance. This is about making sure your data and your analytics are accurate and reliable.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly. You can't make good decisions with bad data, so you need to set data quality standards, implement data validation procedures, and test those analytics models thoroughly.
No cutting corners on data quality.
Nope.
And then last but not least, there's value realization.
This is where you prove that all your data and AI efforts are actually paying off.
Show me the money.
Right. You need to track key performance indicators, measure your return on investment, and show your stakeholders how all this is making a real difference.
So it's like a report card for your data strategy.
I like that. It tells you if you're getting an A+ or barely passing.
And it's an ongoing process, right?
It is. You need to constantly monitor and evaluate your data initiatives to make sure they're delivering the intended value.
So it's not a set it and forget it thing. Data strategy is a living, breathing entity that needs constant attention.
Well said. It's an ongoing journey, not a destination. And it requires a particular set of skills and competencies to navigate successfully.
Okay, I'm curious. What kind of skills are we talking about here?
Well, first of all, you need technical expertise.
People who really understand data management, analytics, AI, all the technical stuff.
Yes, but those technical skills are just the foundation.
There's more.
You also need people who can think strategically about data.
Okay.
People who see the big picture and understand how data can be used to solve problems, create new opportunities, drive innovation.
So you need data strategists, not just data technicians.
Exactly. And you need people with governance expertise.
Because data governance is so important, especially in the age of AI.
It is. Data governance is about building trust in your data and your AI systems.
We should probably dive deeper into that topic. It seems like a pretty big deal.
It is a big deal. It deserves its own deep dive. And that's exactly what we'll do in the next part of our conversation.
All right, let's talk data governance. It sounds like it's a pretty crucial piece of the data strategy puzzle, especially in the age of AI.
Oh, it absolutely is. It's the backbone of a responsible and effective data strategy.
Because without it,
You risk a lot. Inaccurate insights, legal issues, even damage to your reputation.
so let's break it down. What does data governance actually entail?
Well, At its core, it's about having a framework in place
A framework for what?
for ensuring data quality, for making sure data is used ethically, for privacy and security. It's about managing data throughout its entire life cycle.
Okay, so it's not just about protecting data.
Right. It's also about making sure it's accurate, reliable, and used responsibly.
I see. So it's like a set of guidelines or rules even to keep data on the right track.
That's a good way to put it. It's about preventing data from going astray.
I like that. So can you give me some concrete examples of data governance in action?
Sure. Let's start with data quality management.
Okay.
That's about making sure your data is accurate, complete, and consistent. You need processes for data cleansing, validation checks, and ongoing monitoring.
It's like having a quality control team for your data, making sure it's up to par.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then you've got privacy and security, which are super important these days.
Especially with all those regulations like GDPR and CCPA.
Absolutely. You need measures in place like encryption, access controls, and data anonymization techniques to protect sensitive information.
Because organizations can't afford to be careless with data privacy anymore.
They can't. Compliance is crucial, but it's more than just checking boxes.
Right. It's about building trust with customers and stakeholders.
Exactly. People care about their data, and they want to know it's being handled responsibly.
Which brings us to the ethical side of things.
That's right, especially when it comes to AI.
Because we need to make sure those AI systems are fair and transparent.
And accountable, too. We don't want AI making decisions that could harm people.
No, we want AI to be a force for good.
Exactly. And then there's data lifecycle management, which is all about managing data from start to finish.
From the moment it's collected to when it's finally archived or deleted.
Yes. You need to have policies for data retention and disposal, and you need to manage it properly throughout its life cycle.
Okay, so it's a really comprehensive approach to data management. But who's responsible for all of this?
Well, it's not just an IT issue.
So it's not just the tech folks who need to worry about data governance.
Right. You need involvement from IT, legal, compliance, even business units. It's an organization-wide effort.
So it's about breaking down those silos and getting everyone on the same page.
Exactly. Data governance needs to be a team effort.
But how do organizations actually go about implementing all of this? It sounds pretty daunting.
It can be, but there are frameworks and best practices out there to help.
Like what?
Well, one widely used framework is the DMBO.
DMBO.
It stands for Data Management Body of Knowledge. It's basically a guide for data management professionals.
So it's like the data governance Bible.
You could say that. It covers a lot of ground, from basic principles to organizational structures to specific techniques for data quality management and data security.
That sounds incredibly helpful.
Yeah.
But even with a framework in place, I imagine there are still challenges.
Oh, definitely. One of the biggest challenges is getting everyone on board.
Meaning,
Getting everyone to understand the importance of data governance and their role in it.
it's that human element again.
It is. Technology is just one piece of the puzzle. You need to create a culture where everyone values data and feels responsible for managing it properly.
So it's about education, training, communication,
Yeah,
making sure everyone understands the importance of data governance.
exactly. And another challenge is finding the right balance
Between what and what?
between control and agility. Data governance shouldn't stifle innovation. It should enable it.
So it's about having guidelines in place, but not being too restrictive.
Right. You need to allow for flexibility and experimentation.
Okay, I see. And then there's the challenge of staying up to date.
Oh, yes. With regulations constantly changing and technology evolving so rapidly, data governance is not a one-time thing.
So you need to constantly adapt and adjust your approach.
You do. Data governance is an ongoing process.
It sounds like a lot of work, but it's clearly worth it.
It is. Effective data governance is essential for building trust, mitigating risks, and ultimately unlocking the full potential of data and AI.
Well, this has been an incredible deep dive. We've explored so much about data strategy in the AI era.
We've covered a lot of ground: the history, the modern trends, the challenges, the opportunity.
And I think the biggest takeaway for me is that data strategy is no longer just a technical issue.
It's a strategic imperative for any organization that wants to succeed in the age of data and AI.
And it's not just about the technology. It's about people, processes, and a commitment to responsible data use.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
So to our listeners out there, I encourage you to take what you've learned from this deep dive and apply it to your own organizations. Think about how you can build a more robust and responsible data strategy.
It's a journey, but it's a journey worth taking.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into data strategy for the AI era.
It's been a pleasure.